evening, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. The Morris City Commission decided about a month ago that we would hold listening sessions as we, in response really to the vote that we had back in November on the police facility. This is an opportunity for us to go through learning sessions. Learning sessions. Now, what's that mean? That gives us the opportunity to sit and hear from constituents on their feelings about where we need to be and where we need to be heading on future police facilities. Maybe what we did right, what we did wrong on the recent election. One of the things that was important to me, as we talked to the commission members about holding the listening sessions, you know, we needed some time to sit back and really kind of think about things that went on. And, you know, where, you know, the process was. I think that there was some very good opportunity for all kinds of interaction. But, you know, we had a decision that was made by the voters and one that, you know, we respect. But here again, is still we have needs for space for a police facility. And one of the things that we need to find out, and by doing these listening sessions, gives us the opportunity to hear from each and everybody that's here this evening, and all of us get comments from everybody in the community. I mean, we really do, about things that we're doing right, things that we're doing wrong. But you know, we still believe in our police department and the great work that they do. So here we are in a situation, and this gives us the opportunity again to learn from you, maybe directions that you'd like to see us be heading on police facilities, and maybe other needs in the community. So anyway, we're going to open this up to public comment. I would like to introduce the other commission members. Vice Mayor Jeremy Farmer, Commissioner Mike Dever, Commissioner Dr. Terry Rudin, and Commissioner Bob Shum. We have City Manager Dave Corliss in the audience. I think I saw Chief Khatib, yes, he's up there in the back, I think. The lights are a little bright. But I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. Megan Gilliland, the city staff is here and probably going to pass the microphone around. We do have a microphone up here and we'd like for you to come down. I would imagine that we have quite a few people that want to speak tonight. We're going to try to go about an hour and a half. You know, if you can keep your comments, you know, 3 or 4 minutes. Remember, this is a civil discussion. But no, we take your comments, but you know, that this is something that, again, we believe that this is a very important process, that we take the time and you take the time to sit back and talk to one another about where we're heading on probably one of the most important issues that we'll have over the next several years. So please, with that, gentlemen, do you have any comments at this point? Okay. Well, at this point, whoever would like to be first, the microphone's here, and like I said, if we can bring the microphone to you, please let us know. So, anybody like to be first?
Austin Turney, 1501 Pennsylvania. I don't have prepared remarks. I'm thinking about this in context with the fact that city and county have major projects in addition to the police facility, particularly the sewage treatment plant and addition to the jail and possible mental health facilities. And so, as I see it, none of these can really be delayed and wait for others. So the police facility basically needs to be done in the most economical possible way. One thing would be to consider whether there are functions that can be jointly done with the Sheriff's Department. Another obvious one is to find smaller, less expensive lands so the city does not have unused land off the tax rolls. And I see the site as a challenge because the city has grown so that the police can't be central in the same way that the Sheriff's Department is. So it's going to be a balance between what is economical and what is well located. But please be transparent so we, who are the taxpayers, will be able to see what you have examined as you make the final choice. And I would suggest having one or two alternates in your final proposal, things that are desirable but not really essential, so that if the bids come in below the estimate, then these can be added or otherwise simply deferred for a time. And in considering the financing of it, I would hope that in consultation with the county, you would consider issuing bonds for a substantial portion of the life of the facilities. Interest rates are still extremely low, but they won't be that way always. We've gotten more used than I would have expected to having very low interest rates. I'm somebody who likes to receive interest, not pay it. So this would be a possibility to finance it in much the same way as the school district has financed their projects that are going on now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Attorney.
I'm Scott Henderson. I live at 4817 West 25th Street. I got my notes here. I think the police station lost because the rec center and the library won. I think that people are worried about more taxes. A lot of people out there are really struggling. Every time you raise taxes, you dig a hole deeper for somebody. You look at your bankruptcies and your foreclosures in the paper. You look at your fundraisers like the United Way and the Bell Ringers, they didn't make their budgets. And I really think that the people in the city sent a message to you all that taxes are an issue and people are out of money. I have two questions. I don't know if you take questions, but I really would appreciate an answer. If you have more than one project to be voted on, who decides what order they're voted on?
Okay. You have another question, too?
Why was the police station voted on in third place behind the library and the rec center? I really believe that the library, or the police station would have won if it had been voted on first. I don't know that you could have put anything in third place that was going to raise taxes that would have passed. So back to my question, how is it decided on what order, or who decides what order these projects are to be voted on?
Scott, this is probably the answer that the commission, we talk about capital improvements, and every year that we go through budget time, we talk, about, the needs of the community. And one of the things that has to happen is that as things move through a process,
So it isn't just one person?
I'm sorry?
It isn't just one person that has the deciding?
Absolutely not. The commission and the community decide the order in which things happen. And there's got to be support for it amongst the commission. I've worked on, Mike and I and Bob have been on 2 or 3 different commissions, I guess, in recent times where projects have moved up, and that's fine. That's how the political process works. But here again, as much as one of us may have liked to have, the police department first, others like another project first, and that's just really how it works. I mean, honest to God. And, you've got to be able to have the support. We all understand the needs for every one of the projects that have been approved or not approved by voters. But, the thing is that they still got to have the vote and timing to be able to enter, the election part.
Well, maybe you answered my question, but why was the police station voted on after the library and the rec center?
Just, we've had the debate. We had the debate, and that was the order that was selected. That's That's just how they fell in place.
It seems to me that we got our dessert before we got our main course. If I have a problem with somebody breaking in my house, I'm sure not going to call the library.
You're
I'm
absolutely
going to call the
right.
police station. And I think that the police station, there should be some priorities here. And I think there was a lot of influential people that were pushing projects that would benefit their pocket. And I think and I know a lot of people are still worried about the water treatment plant, the library, and we haven't heard from the school board yet. And again, I really believe people sent a message to the city that, hey, we're out of money. Thank
Okay.
you.
I appreciate that. Anyone else?
Well, I'll just chime in and say that, you know, everything you said makes sense, and here's the bottom line, and I can only speak for myself and not being a part of really voting for those other two, but we messed up. And you know, that's not the priority that I would have put on things, but I've been here 2 years, and you know, this was a priority for me, and it always was a priority for me. But clearly, you know, we did not do what we needed to do in order to give the public confidence that we had the ability to make decisions for or on behalf of the community that elected us. And you know, I'm sorry, we failed you and many others who voted no by getting these priorities. This is me speaking, not for anyone else, but in my opinion, out of order, and I'm sorry.
I think that when the police department comes up for a vote again, it's going to be a struggle. I don't care. It's important. My son is a cop. I support the police station. But because of the tax issues and because of people being out of money, you can run that thing again, and I don't think it's going to pass. Just because of the things that I pointed out. And like I said, a lot of people with the same color hair that I got are concerned. Social Security went up 1.7%. That's not keeping up with the things that you guys are wanting to do. And like I said, every time you pass something or do something that increases taxes, look in the newspaper and you're just digging a hole deeper for the people that you represent or you know or your neighbors. So I think the whole thing comes down to common sense. Thank you.
Other comment? I have your name. Good evening.
Scott Willett. I've been a 20-year resident of Lawrence, Kansas, and before I get started, I want to thank you very much for having sessions like this. I think it's a great idea, and I really appreciate it. I'm a 20-year resident, homeowner, and taxpayer. I've never written an article for the Journal World. I've never spoken in front of the commission. I very much respect all the commissioners and the time that you put in. It's somewhat of a thankless job, and I really appreciate all of you for volunteering your services for that. I'm here as a marginally informed voter, and I think that's one of the issues that the council needs to address and the Journal World needs to address moving forward. Following are my comments, concerns, and suggestions related to our city, the commission, and why I believe the proposed police station failed. Number one, first, the commissions, over the 20 years that I've been here in Lawrence, I think have done a great job on a number of different fronts. I like the supporting of the downtown. I think that probably needs to be a bridge just a little bit as we're moving forward type of thing. Eliminating the farmland and buying that land and going into the Venture Park, I think was just absolutely outstanding. The partnership with KU, I think, is strong. The environmental transitions that the city has gone through, I think, are very, very good. The recycling, the hydroelectric, the electrical, all good things. Road repairs, overall city look and the feel of the city, I think, is great. The support that you provide for eliminating vacant buildings, I think, is good. The new vocational facility, I think, is going to be a big plus for businesses down the road. The support of the traffic way and the city and sanitation and parks are just outstanding. I think those are great accomplishments that you should all be proud of. These are my concerns. City indebtedness. Attracting new business, where's the game plan? We see advertisements on TV associated with New York having no taxes whatsoever for new businesses coming in. I think we need to get in the game. I don't think there have been many manufacturing businesses over 50 employees that have come to Lawrence over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And there's got to be a reason for that, and I think we need to figure out what exactly that is. We've completed a number of projects which I think are great projects, but they're a little bit of a burden on the taxpayers. The bus system, the city golf course, the new library, the new pool, Rock Chalk Recreational Park. Those are all good, but nothing is free. And I think we need to figure out a way for those to come closer to paying for themselves. I'm a big believer in user fees, and I think we need to reevaluate the meaning of free. There are 2 projects that we didn't do, the water treatment facility and the new police station. The previous gentleman indicated the priorities of the projects. I also have a concern. We did a lot of social nice-to-haves, and we didn't do some of the city need projects, what I think needed to be done up front. And one of my suggestions would be, there should be a list of projects. I mean, how do we know? We don't know. There should be a list of projects that's in the journal world on some type of regular basis so that the city citizens can at least see the thoughts that you guys have, and then we can provide some constructive feedback to you related to that. My concern related to some of the projects are it's putting excessive financial burden on the city, and also it reduces to some extent private businesses. When we have a Rock Chalk Park doing all those services for free, it makes it very tough for other businesses to come in that may have athletic parks and things of this nature. There needs to be a balance there, one way or another. My suggestion would be there'd be a $10 a month, you'd have a card for 1 year, one way or another, to help defer the costs of Rock Chalk Park. Now, supposedly, it's a budget neutral operation one way or another. We'll see after the first year whether in fact it is or not one way or another. But I think that needs to be looked at as we move forward. In summary, the silent majority of the citizens, I think, voted down the police department simply because they're concerned with the financial position as far as the city. We're not as informed as you may be, but we need to be. Financial spending from a priority standpoint, it might have been misplaced. There wasn't enough transparency and information sharing. And it may occur, we'll see what the audit says, for spending management and oversight. These are some of my suggestions. Social projects, I think, need to be a little more cost neutral, one way or another. They're not going to be totally paid for, don't expect that. But I think there's something to be said for someone who owns a part of something, one way or another. Aggressive plans need to be made to attract new business and jobs. We're a transient community. We go to Topeka and we go to Kansas City. All that tax burden is going to be on the homeowners as we try to do all these programs. We need to bring new business in. We've got a great venture park. We've got a traffic way that's started. We've got a vocational. If the city council can really kind of move forward in terms of making it good for new businesses to come on board, I think that'll be a huge plus. I think the commission needs to have a performance scorecard. I think there needs to be measurable metrics to determine what you guys determine are your success. I come from a very much business environment in which every one of my accountabilities was data-based in terms of knowing whether I was successful or not. City indebtedness, jobs created versus jobs lost, total taxes for citizens, specific project execution, plus or minus within budget with 5%. There's a lot of different things that could be done. But I do think we need to have a mission or a vision and some metrics in which you and the city manager can determine how successful we are. The Journal World has done a pretty good job of informing citizens, but I think more data-based information is needed and need to be shared. I think a monthly scorecard that is developed with the city management and yourself and probably some input for the citizens needs to take place and be posted in the Journal World once a month. And it probably would be good for the Journal World to conduct an annual survey. We do the best at Lawrence related to who makes the best hamburgers and things of this nature. A survey related to how we're doing as a city would probably be pretty good too. My last comment was just to thank all of you for the hard work that you do day in, day out. And I would hope that the ahas and the recommendations that you've heard over the last 2 sessions are written in the journal world related to what you believe you need to do next steps in terms of moving forward from these 2 listening sessions. Thank you very much.
Oh, Bill Roth. Specifically on why I believe that the vote for the police facility didn't pass. It's specifically aimed at that. That's all I want to talk about. I know that only about 4 or 5% of the voters didn't vote for the police facility. So if you could change the minds of 4 or 5% of the people, the bond would have passed. So how would you get that to happen? Well, these are my perspectives, of course, and that might not be other people's. After the concept of a new facility moved from the locker room, a discussion was made to a formal study of the department. And then when they finished, an outside architect was hired to make its assessment. Their analysis came to the same conclusion, which we've all known. Along the way, there were multiple briefings to the city council, or city commission, excuse me. So anyone who was really interested in what was going on could have been made aware of the factors that were being considered. For some reason, it sounded like nobody knew it was coming, but obviously you all knew it was coming because it had been briefed multiple times. When the bond was priced at $28 million, in my mind, the project became a non-starter. It was dead on arrival. The project that the city has embarked on would have been around, all the other ones have been around 25 million, between 20 and $25 million. The police facility itself shouldn't have cost more than $23.5 million. That was the last number I heard in the commission. But a couple of things were added that should not have been added to the bond package. The $2 million for ops and maintenance, I've already stated previously to you all folks, I don't believe it belonged in the bond. It should have been taken out. It should be covered by operating expenses. There were some other things in there. There may have been some new equipment put in the bond. That should have been covered under the general operating budget. Just aside on the O&M facilities, I believe that the warranty for the contractor should have covered any problems you would have had during the first 3 years. So the maintenance costs for the first 3 or 4 years should have been absolutely minimal. It should have been made clear that a sales tax would be of real benefit to citizens of Lawrence. Everybody thinks it's regressive, but when you think about it, that's not the right approach. About 1/3 of the money that would be paying for the facility, or the bond rather, would be covered by people from other counties, or this county and surrounding counties, Topeka, Kansas City, and the people that just drop in off I-90. So they're getting about 1/3 of it subsidized. And that should have been pointed out, because if you go to a property tax, then only the people in Lawrence pay for it. So the people that are really getting 1/3 of the advantage don't get a chance to pay for it, which doesn't make any sense to me. Although the selected site was not perfect, there was no perfect site. The chief had another place in mind, but that wasn't available because the owner wouldn't sell it to us, sell it to the city. So when you took all the pluses and minuses of the facility that was chosen, the facility that was chosen probably had more pluses than any of the other facilities that could have been made available. If the Hallmark property had been purchased, it could have been very conceivably resulted in a profit for the city. Now, the reason I say that, when the various locations that the police department is currently occupying were disposed of and the unneeded land at the purchased site were sold, it could probably have resulted in a net gain for the city. It may not have been, but it could have been balanced out pretty closely, I think. Okay, those comments are aimed at why the bond didn't pass. Let me talk just briefly about some of the things that the police department gains, if you want to make those. When viewed from the police department perspective, there are multiple advantages, some tangible and some intangible. The unquantifiable advantage will result from having the members of the force co-located. There's a synergism from having the members able to interact with other members. Things get done faster, more efficiently. These benefits will not become known until the consolidation occurs, and they may never be specifically identifiable, but they're there. The tangible results will result from significantly shortened response times. With response equipment pre-positioned, it will take a minimum amount of time to get into a vehicle and respond to the scene with the appropriate equipment. No more having to find items that need to be placed in the vehicle, such as smoke canisters, ammunition, flares, and then having to drive to the responsibility locations. They can be left in the vehicles that are in a secure area. Another benefit would be that the vehicles can easily be inspected. You just have to walk down and look at them so that you don't have flat tires, dead batteries, oil leaks, or empty windshield wiper fluids. It's right there. The guys can look at it every day. Another benefit would be the time saved in training activities. Probably the most obvious time saver is the firearms training. For the officers to drive to the range takes about 25 minutes. So every time they go to a training session, they effectively lose an hour of their time. For them to have a professional training facility that they can go to within 5 minutes will be a significant man-hour saver and provide the officers with enhanced training scenarios. The chief probably doesn't want me to say this, but the overall man-hours savings will probably reduce the number of officers that will have to be added to the force in the coming years, because there are just few requirements to wasted time. The last comment that I would like to make, and I've harped on this before, is that the facility should have been identified as a model for building efficiency. I don't think it would have been necessary to have a garden on the roof, but a wind turbine, solar panels, thermal collectors, perhaps geothermal, thermal glass, and other state-of-the-art technologies that could be used to make the facility have a minimum utility footprint. By making the building an example of what can be done, our citizens, as well as other communities, could see that Lawrence is a leader in environmental thinking. If any of you all have any comments you'd like to make, I'll be trying to answer them for you.
Questions, Bill? Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going to speak again tonight. That's what last time around I wasn't going to either, but some things occurred to me. So I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and all the commissioners for having this, putting up with this. I hope you get some good ideas. It's the way to go. When I was here before, I stated that I voted for the police department, and I said, and I was asked why. There's two reasons. One of them was the main one was I just believe what people had said, and I read a lot about it. And Dr. Reardon, I didn't go out and look at the facilities because I thought I had adequate information to make that kind of decision. And I was really kind of surprised at the outcome. And when you're looking for solutions, I was thinking about, we talked before, there's ideas of long-range planning and other kinds of things. And I was thinking, well, how do you develop a list of priorities about things that come? Because it seems like things are put on your plate, like we have to do this now, or here's an opportunity to do this kind of thing now. And back in your mind someplace, there's an idea of what needs to be done and maybe how to finance it. But it was kind of tossed around that the planning ought to be done with the school, with the county, and with the city about the projects that are coming up, because you're really in competition for the same kinds of money. Now, I don't know how you could gain a consensus on that, but if you could do it some way and the people could see what's coming down the road, and then if you could have an idea about where the money's coming from, you could have an idea about what the long-term capital improvements or capital costs are going to be in ways that you might be able to get it. The other problem that I think caused this election, I hear this all over again, was all the graft that went on and all the favoritism that was found. And I started even believing that. I heard it so much. So I investigated. And I found out the first thing was, it wasn't one project, it was two projects. One of them was the project with the university, and who was also an endowment, who was also tied in with Bliss. The process was already started. We were invited to come in, and because of the emphasis on the Kansas relays, there was really a need to get infrastructure and things in place. But I'm satisfied that the good job was done in controlling those costs. The other thing was no bid process. Well, there was a bid process. As I understand it, there were 9 people who bid on the building. and the one who was cheapest was Bliss at about $300,000 lower than the other one. But that information is now out in the public. Quite frankly, I think there was a good opportunity. You guys took advantage of it and did a good job. But I think the communications ought to be there. And I've since then seen memos and other kinds of things that leads me to believe it, but that information is just not getting out there. You're probably so busy going on to the next project that it's not there. But anyway, now that I have done this, I have a better appreciation for what you do. And again, I think you did a good job, and thank you for having us tonight.
Thanks, Jim. Other comment?
My name is Rich Crank. My last name is spelled C-R-A-N-K, but that means neither that I'm a cranky old man nor that I'm wealthy. I do not know how to suggest that you proceed the next time, because basically I went in and voted the last time out of anger, and it had to do with the gentleman in the red cap talking about the order of these three very expensive projects, and that the one that I considered the most expensive was the one that came up last for us to consider. And that really angered me. I may very well vote in favor of the police building the next time, but I need to be convinced to change my vote. And I don't know how you can do that. That's going to be up for you to try. I think that's all I have to say, is that that's why I myself could not vote for it. I wanted to, but I just felt like I couldn't. And I should add that I retired at the end of August. So my income is now about between a third and a half of what it was last June and July. And that has a big impact on decisions I make.
Thanks, Rich. Can I answer that, please? Bob? Rich, hold on.
Well, that's all right, you can sit down. You know, time and time again here, we look at three different projects: the library, the rec center, and then the police department. We didn't just get together one night and say, let's do this, let's do that. In fact, the library was citizen-driven. Aaron Cromwell, who has been off the commission for almost 4 years now, led that citizen drive to a vote which passed, and the people of Lawrence certified a new library. You can't argue with that. I mean, I can't argue with a public vote. I can't argue with the last vote on the police department. The rec center, we had a sales tax that was issued or voted on in 1994 for general purposes of city government, and then with a specificity in there for recreation and parks and park facilities. We didn't just decide to do that on that statement alone. We heard countless numbers of people tell us how much they needed more recreational space for the kids, for themselves, so they can stay healthy. We have a Parks Advisory Board that advised us that we should be doing this. And then we had at least a half a dozen forums or more like this, but much more well attended, in which testimony after testimony told us that we're way behind the curve on the fact that we don't have enough recreation space. So we answered the petition, and that's what democracy is. People petition their government, and that's what we moved forward on. We didn't do it saying, now the police are going to suffer. We did it because it was citizen-driven, and we answered their request. So we're not trying to pick and choose winners. We're trying to get it all done. We're trying to sequence it. We're trying to be as reasonable as possible. But for those people who just think we sit up here and pick, 1, 2, 3 with a deck of cards or something, it's just not that way. These things have been citizen-driven all the way. So I hope you understand. If you want to talk to me more about it afterwards, I'll be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Bob. Other comment?
My name is Susie Nightingale. I live at 919 Chalk Hill Court. I've been living in Lawrence for 15 years. I am a property owner, and I am very worried about finances. I'm a senior citizen, a retired educator, and I think that's a lot of what people are experiencing right now is really serious concerns about financial matters. And I don't think that we do not support our police department, because I definitely do support our police department. And I know that they serve a very, very valuable function in our community. But I think it's just too much. And I think that's what keeps coming up. And you hear about how many different things, and now we're talking about a new county jail, and we're talking about new mental health facilities, and those are very important as well. But I think it's just people are feeling strapped, and we really don't have as much money as we would like. And I think Lawrence is somewhat unique. If I'm not mistaken, it's only 46% of the population owns property. So that's a very small number compared to other communities in our area where taxpayers are, more people are property owners, so that it's not quite such a burden on the property owners. So I think that's where people are coming from. So that's my speech.
Ms. Nightingale, would you like us to maybe redirect some of our other priorities that we have? If this one is so important to all of us that we redirect some of the monies that maybe we're going to spend other places?
I think the police department needs to come first. I think that would be my primary thing that I would say, because that's public safety. And we hear a lot in the paper, and I mean, I'm a person who lives alone, and I know that I read in the paper, and I'm reading about it all around where I live. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so I think that that would be my top priority, is the police, so we are protected. So thank you very much for having this opportunity. I'm really glad you all did this. It really meant a lot to me to come. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
My perception of why this didn't pass is because of what was seen as wild spending on the sports pavilion, and I think a lot of people were really pissed off about it. There was a lot of supposedly citizen input on this. A lot of people came to say how they felt about it. What I heard is a lot of people speaking up and questioning it, and I felt like we weren't heard. People were speaking and no one was listening, and I found that incredibly frustrating. I think a lot of people, other people did as well. It seemed as though the decision was already made before any input came along, and that's just irritating. I think that the questionable priority of putting this sports pavilion before the police just caused a lot of lack of trust between the city and the commissioners, and therefore it would be hard to vote for something else. Okay, that's what they want to do, that's how we'll do it then. That's how I see it.
Thanks, Bob.
I haven't said much in any of these sessions because we're supposed to be listening to you, but I think it's important that you have some insight as to how we make decisions and how we try to deal with the public input that we get as it relates to the wants versus the needs in our community. The citizens of Lawrence passed overwhelmingly over 70% a sales tax, which was put in place to improve our roads and infrastructure. And we've been spending millions of dollars, between about $5 million every year, that's been going back into our community because we let our roads get to a position that they needed to be repaired. And you know, that was the big thing that we passed. And I think I was pretty proud of the community for seeing the needs. And I think you're seeing a lot of those improvements being put in place. Every year it seems like we're doing something to improve the intersections in our community, the roads. And I think, I mean, just over the last 8 years, I've noticed a lot of real improvement in our community as it relates to infrastructure. So I think we've been putting the needs of our community first. And that tax in itself was really supposed to be for major infrastructure projects. So we'll fast forward to the library, and I think the library was something that the citizens voted on, and it passed, but not really as overwhelmingly as the previous sales tax, and that one sunsets as well, pretty as soon as the bonds are paid off. Both of those sales tax will sunset. So, we've been, cautious and careful with your dollars. Now, back to the sales tax question that was put forth with recreation. I think the public would be, needs to understand that the dollars that are generated by that sales tax, which has no sunset, were supposed to be used for a couple of specific purposes, and obviously recreation was the number one. The first item listed on the ballot initiative, if you read it. So, and to answer your question, and I think to be direct, I think that there would be a huge public outcry if we took those dollars and invested them into a police facility when that sales tax, which never goes away, is supposed to be used for recreational purposes. Now, there's some subheadings in that ballot initiative that indicated that, hey, we could use it for other important city issues, and maybe that's so, but for over 8 years, several years before I got on the commission, and then for 4 years after that, as we rolled into the recession, you know, people were asking us to build the rec center with the dollars that we asked for you know, in the 90s, and nothing had happened. They were supposed to build something, it didn't happen. So after about 8 years of study and conversations and communications, we took those dollars, which were already being set aside, and we finally retired some of the debt that was associated with those tax dollars, and we decided to roll those back into recreation. And I think I don't want to say that we couldn't have used it for a police station, but I believe that we would all have heard an awful lot from the public about taking those dollars and putting them into a police station. So really, you know, trying to come at us with, you know, we made bad decisions. You know, I'll say that the worst decision that I made was related to how the recreation center was finished. Not if or when it got done, but how and the process that was, you know, occurred while it went on. And, you know, I apologize for that, but I think one of the gentlemen pointed out, you know, we are given opportunities, a moment in time where you as a leader have to make a decision, and that decision has to be made in a finite period of time. And, you know, we could have talked about it, we could have thought about it, we could have studied it more, but honestly, this community voted on it 20 years ago almost to put some dollars into the recreational facilities in our community, and I felt like as a steward of your tax dollars, that's where those dollars need to be spent. In hindsight, would I try to have lobbied to use those dollars, those recreational sales tax dollars, for a new police station? I think that's something that could have been put forward, but nobody brought that conversation forward to the commission, and I think it's important for you to know that nobody came to me and said, hey, Mike, there's $25 million that we can use for whatever purpose you want. How do you want to use that? It was presented to me that these bonds were retiring, and we had these sales tax dollars that were being generated by existing sales tax. And if somebody come to me and said, hey, well, you can make a choice between a police station and a rec center, I would pick a police station. But that's not the choice that we were given. And I want to make sure that people understand that that is not really, we're not comparing apples to apples. And so I want to make sure everyone understands that all of these decisions, unfortunately, are made in a vacuum. They're not, we don't sit around, as someone indicated, and have a list of things we want, because that's not how our community works. You have people who lobby and come to you and want things, and you as a commissioner need to make a decision in that finite moment of time. And I just want you to know that you know, we tried to do the best we could with the dollars that we were given by you, and make the decisions that were in place at the time when those needs were brought to us, or those wants were brought to us. So whether it's a public referendum like the library, whether it's your sales tax dollars, we've spent between $5 and $10 million that nobody even mentions out at Venture Park. And we took a contaminated site and turned it into something that I think is going to generate tax dollars for this community. But nobody ever complains about the fact we did all that without asking any of you. We did that because we knew we had one moment, we had one chance, we had the opportunity to receive, you know, millions of dollars to help clean it up from the state of Kansas. We took it out of a brownfield situation and turned it into literally a green field, and I'm excited about those opportunities. But nobody ever talks about the fact that we did this, and I think those investments that we make in that moment in time are really important, and that's what you hired us to do. And I want to make sure that we all have an understanding of that is our job, and that, you know, we can't pick and choose dollars. They're not necessarily fungible or all coming from one pot. They're all coming from your pockets, but they're supposed to be set aside and be used for different things. So I just want to make sure that was clear.
So why can't the police department do it at Venture Park?
Well, they could, and we talked about that. And,
I would vote yes for that.
yeah, and you know, I was a proponent of that. And I think that we have the land and we have the infrastructure and we have the capability, but we hired a consultant to evaluate all the sites, and we talked to the police department, we talked about the people who had to use these facilities, and, you know, they picked a site that they felt was the best for the community and for the best way to serve the public. And we did seriously consider that, and that was a major factor, or that was a major site in the decision-making process. It just didn't happen to be selected, and that would be a possible location, and I think it... I'll vote yes. Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you. Appreciate
Writing
that.
it down.
Heather McLaren, I'll vote yes for that one.
Okay. Who else? Thanks, Mike.
My name is Jeremy Roth-Cruchot. I think the example of you all taking the lead on Venture Park is a really good example of executive leadership. And when you step into the fold and you seize an opportunity, and the people see that you, although you didn't wait for the people to call you to do it, you made a move that really made sense. I think that's juxtaposed to what happened at Rock Chalk and then the way that this round of the police station was done. And I think there's two things I think that could be informative to us about what went wrong with Rock Chalk. And I don't think it's just that we should have spent that money on the police station. It's really the nature of what was done there. There's two things. One thing is, what that sales tax called for was very specific about generating wellness in the community, improving the quality of life in the community. And I know that Rock Chalk Park has done that for a good bunch of folks, but meanwhile it's way isolated out there. It was conjoined with a lot of confused different parameters that involve the college's interests, developer interests, economic development. I think it's cool to sometimes bring a lot of interests together. Sometimes you can get synergies, but if you have a certain inertia of, and I think this is part of the problem that we're dealing with, is there's a certain political and social inertia in Lawrence where certain groups of interest drive design rather than proper design and what's good for the community as a whole driving the way. So that's one side of what went wrong with Rock Chalk Park. What its service to the people of Lawrence was not well defined and maybe not really the first, the priority in that project. The second part of it that I think we could learn about in terms of how we approach the police station is this idea of how it was very centralized in a way while being perimeter. If we'd spent $1 million, let's just consider the infrastructure that was the city spent on no bid contract over there. If $1 million had been spent in a few different places around the city, that would have improved the quality of life of children and residents around the city in a very grounded manner. So those two things, I think maybe we could think through this idea of the police station. The reason for the police station is to improve the quality of life and work for the police themselves. But the reason for the police is to increase the well-being and security of the community. So that's what we really need to focus on. It could be, like, for example, North Lawrence doesn't have first responders. We don't, and I've talked to Ted Boyle from the North Lawrence Improvement Association. There's no first responders on the ground in North Lawrence. If there's a flood or the bridge, gets messed up in some way, we're isolated over there. It would make sense to distribute security facilities and security personnel around the city. Not that it doesn't make sense to centralize, have an office space where all the police can go and do what they need to do, and it may make sense that Venture Park is the place for that. But let's not just put all our eggs in one basket, and let's really distribute value throughout the community and let the process be driven by value and design. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just make a couple comments. One is that Bonnie mentioned that she didn't think we listened to her. And I would say, knowing these four gentlemen that are up here, we listen very hard. but we didn't give the impression we listened very hard. I was listening on one of my medical tapes one time when they talked about errors in systems. And the guy talked about the fact that the airports would give instructions, and we had instructions to an airplane pilot to go straight ahead, and we had another instruction for somebody to cross in the lane in front of him. And they got them mixed up at the times. And he made the comment, you know, when you call a Chinese restaurant, they report back to you what you just ordered. He said, we had a systems problem. The Chinese restaurant did a better job with something far less important than the airport did. And we had a huge crash where two airplanes ran into each other. You probably remember it out in LA. So if you look at the system that you have and you change the system, we do this all the time in medicine. We stop using 1.0 because 1.0 can look like 10. And if you measure something and give it 10 times the amount, you can really harm somebody. So if we look at the systems that we have here that we're using to engage the public, to give information, because a lot of people say, I've heard tonight, we didn't know. We didn't understand. And there were a couple very eloquent talks about people who investigated and did information and found it, and they were satisfied with it. So I think we have a system that we need to look at on why we're not engaging the public and how we can do things better with that. And that's one of the messages that I'm hearing tonight, is that even though we're trying, we're not doing it in an effective manner. So let's look at the system that we're using and think about changing it. There's lots of cities in the United States that have something called Open Town Hall, where you can comment in a very nice way about what the city's doing, and it also can be informed with that. The other thing I'd like to address just a little bit, so I think we need to change our system and look at why it went wrong, figure it out, and change it. The second thing is that democracy is a very interesting way of governing, because you have X number of people in the Congress, you have the number of senators, 100 and the representatives, 460 some, and they take what people tell them and then make decisions. We do the same thing here in the city. If we just wanted to have a vote on and to do it exactly like the public wanted, then we wouldn't need city commissioners. We wouldn't need somebody to gather all the data, to listen to all the citizens, and then take all that, because fortunately or unfortunately, we have a lot more information than the public does, even though we try to get it out. We really do try to make good decisions based on the public input, but also based on that knowledge, which is going to be more than the citizens have. So how can we share that? Once again, we need to do that. But I don't think we should go to a system where we just simply look at votes, because to do so would be to go against a democracy that we have. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but I think we can improve it. So those would be the two comments that I would make, is let's look at the systems that we're using to see why we're not getting this information out to the public and why it doesn't make sense to you, and try to figure that out and then to change that. And the second would be that a democracy, somebody has to make a decision sometime, and it's got to be a finite group of people, because we're not going to always agree. So somebody has to bear the burden of making a decision that might be unpopular among the citizens until they get the product and then realize that was a good decision. And I thank you for coming tonight and listening, because we really are interested in hearing you. And I appreciate the tone. I appreciate the information. There's been a lot of good comments, and I hope there's some more, because I would still like to gather more data, because that really does help each of us.
My name's Melinda Henderson. I live in Brook Creek neighborhood. I like the idea of an open town hall. These listening stations, I think, have really been great. And that might be what we could do in the future, rather than feeling limited to 3 minutes at City Commission to try to get a point across or a concern. And I know that frustrates a lot of people. Let's keep that idea on the table. First, I want to refute some comments that I heard at the last listening session. Specifically that, yeah, Rock Chalk Park might have been a concern to some of us, but that's no reason to turn around and shoot ourselves in the foot and make the city less safe for neighborhoods. 0.2% sales tax increase for 7 or 8 years was a small amount of money for everyone to pay. And I think the majority of you have heard my spiel on sales tax, and I will get to that in a little bit. But my vote was a no vote on a sales tax to fund the police facility. It was not a no, I don't support the police vote. And everyone else I've talked to who voted no feels the same way. I really want that perfectly clear because it was a vote on a sales tax. It was a funding method. So I hope I've made myself clear on that. I don't believe in conspiracies or secret backroom meetings with graft and corruption. And I know there were comments made about that. But as our previous CEO of the chamber told me once, perception is 95% of the issue. Or whatever the quote is. We were having a discussion on his perception of what Progressive Lawrence campaign, all the damage that had done, and I was saying, but you don't have the facts. He said, oh, it doesn't matter. Perception's 95% of reality. So, what I want to do, because you've asked, is I want to give you my perception of how I saw things and why I voted no on the sales tax. To tell my story, I have to go back to Rock Chalk Park for just a little bit, which I know is like beating a dead horse, but it's part of the reason that I voted no. So there's really two parts, so I really want you to understand. My understanding of Rock Chalk Park and the sports facility, and I went back and tried to confirm all of this today. Thank you, staff, for a great website that has all of the Rock Chalk Park documents on it, because I hadn't been there in a while. And I want to make sure, I was, still, on track with how I was perceiving it. So we had our brochure for like a $33 million facility way back in the beginning. And then it got narrowed down to it was going to be like a $19 to $20 million facility with the cap at $22.5 million for the sports facility and the infrastructure. And any costs exceeding that figure would be a gift, air quotes, gift, to the community from the developer. So I went back and I looked at the letters from KU Endowment and the request for information that Commissioner Amix had asked for. October 12th, 2013, the endowment letter references a one-time payment of $25 million. And then we got to the part of the no bid contract, November 8th, 2012. The city's total cost is fixed at $25 million, as outlined in the October 2nd letter, and will not change as a result of the bids being provided for review. So the way I interpret that, again, my perception, the way I interpret that is we've got $22.5 million, and we're going to get a $20 million facility and maybe spend a couple or $3 million on infrastructure, and the rest is going to be a gift from the developer. But that's not what happened, because we were tied to that 22.5 million cap. The bid for the sports pavilion came in at 10 million, and we had 12 million left for the infrastructure. And that's what we're paying for. And that doesn't look like good fiscal management to me. If that bid for the pavilion came in half of what it was projected, why did you leave us tied up with 12 million for the infrastructure when we were never planning to pay that much anyway? I need a quick break. So that's the part I don't understand. And using the sales tax, I know Commissioner Amix wanted to make sure that we had enough money in that 1994 sales tax reserve fund, or sales tax fund, to be able to make 20 years worth of payments, which actually is going to end up being like 27 million. Oh, where are you, Casey? So the first slide is, it's not the federal poverty, it's the budget one. The capital, countywide sales tax plan. Yeah, that one. So, so I looked at this a lot, really trying to understand everything. And I think you'll have to scoot it over a little bit or reduce it a little bit. There. Basically, what you see is starting in 2014, we've got that 1.35 million for 20 years. And so much of it is going to infrastructure. So we knew we could do the 22.5 million. But my concern, and it's very possible that I just don't understand contracts or financing, but I just don't understand why it looks to me like we left so much money on the table and the developer figured out a way to use up every penny of it. And we didn't get our $20 million sports facility, but we got $12 million of infrastructure.
Didn't we just have, excuse me, Melinda, didn't we just have an appraisal done?
Yeah,
We just had an appraisal done of the property.
Okay.
And what was that figure? 27 million.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Just so that you know.
I appreciate that.
So we did get our money's worth.
Yeah, if we look at that, Melinda, then in fact, we do have, that's where we are. We're at 27 million for the investment that we have.
Okay, 27 million.
Yeah, that was just recently done.
The building was appraised at 18.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at 10.5 or 10.3 on the building.
10.6 with the
10.6, okay. Just to let you know.
The original, there was an original appraisal done by the insurance company for 20.
Well, they wanted to insure at
$27 million.
We had an independent appraiser come back and appraise the building.
The insurance company felt like it was worth $27 million.
Right.
Just the replacement building, replacement cost of the building was 18.1 million.
Thank you. That makes me feel better.
It's on the same website.
There's a lot on that website. Okay. Thank you. I feel better that we got a better deal than, well, we got a deal that was better than, paying $20 million for a $27 million facility. But it's still, and I'm just not going to harp on the, other, just leaving the cap at 22.5 million, because that's really not worth it. So we all went through that, took a breath, and then said, well, now we're going to have to build a new police facility. And we're going to do it probably with a sales tax. So this is where I go into my spiel about sales taxes are regressive and the poverty level in Lawrence, and we pay sales tax on food in Kansas. Those are the main reasons why, and I think I've told you this before, you can throw a sales tax on a ballot initiative for anything you want, and as long as I can vote, I'm going to vote against it because it's regressive, especially when we pay tax on food in the state of Kansas.
And Melinda, you've always said that to us, and we appreciate your consistency.
I'm still on that message. So if you want to pull up the sales tax slide. So what I did when I was researching this, I went back and I looked at the our total sales tax rate from 2008 to what it would be this year if the issue was passed. So you can see that over 7 years, the county stayed level. It didn't increase at all. The state, we had some fluctuations because we hit the recession and the legislature approved a 1% sales tax increase, which they promised to give us some of that back. Well, we got like 0.15% of it back. So, so that increased, 0.85, which is a 16% increase. The city, and Mike, I think you referenced some of these projects here. When we went, with the transportation funding and the 0.55% back in 2009. So we've got that, and then had the 0.2% sales tax passed, we would be at 8.90, almost 9%, county, state, and city. So the city, you can see, has this huge increase at 55%. If we didn't pass the sales tax, 75%, and in only 7 years. People like me have really felt that hard. That's why I really, really encourage you to try to find another way of funding whatever it is we've got to do in the future. And even from 1.55 to 1.75, God, I figured that out, and that, it was just a whole lot more than, oh, it's just 2 cents on every $10 that you spend. I think it was almost like a 13 or 14% increase, and that's a lot.
Yeah, Bob, Melinda, we've got some other people to get to, but...
Do that, well, now, see,
Melinda,
I
I'd
wanted
like
to wait until the end so that I didn't screw up anybody
I
else.
was going to answer your sales tax
Okay,
challenge.
thank you.
There's two sides to that story, and sales tax in general is regressive. It taxes everyone on the first dollar they spend. In Lawrence, it's a very different community because so much of our land is exempt because of KU. And I've seen models where increase in property tax is actually more regressive than sales tax. The reason why sales tax is acting in that manner is because we're sales taxing so many people, students and people who come here and enjoy the services that don't live here. So you get a huge amount of net income from people who use the services, the police, the fire, the roads, the parks, everything that you wouldn't get if you put it on property tax. So if you have to have $5 million, let's say, and you raise property tax, if you look at some models, you'll see that by raising sales tax a smaller amount, then you actually will get more money, or you get the same amount of money, but it's less tax on people. Now, when people say, "Well, yeah, but I rent, I don't pay property tax."
No, I understand.
Everybody pays property tax.
I
If you have your head on a bed in Lawrence, you're paying a property tax.
I know that. I would never make that argument.
So anyway, that's the other side that we have to look at. I mean, we have to look at all this stuff. And we're not just saying, "Oh, that's a nice tax because it's regressive."
Well,
but, we put a lot of study into it. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the other thing that I'm real concerned about right now, and it's kind of echoing some of the other concerns. Some of us are on fixed incomes, and we have no clue what is coming out of the state of Kansas. And I just really hesitate to commit to any more financial burden until at least this legislative session is over, because school funding, I think we're all frightened about that, and we've kept the LOB at 33%. So, okay. I will not put up the federal poverty level slide, but do you know what our federal poverty level rate is in Lawrence? No, Jeremy, that's cheating. If
No,
Jeremy
he's writing down everything you're saying.
Writing down your comments.
It's a lie.
yeah.
sorry, what was the question?
We are way over the average. We're over 20% at federal poverty.
23.2.
Yes.
That's why.
So that's my rebuttal to all these people are going to be coming in from the outside. That's great, but I live here. I've got to pay those sales taxes, especially when I buy food.
So I just want to point out, because I think that, and this isn't specific to you, this is more just a general frustration with the way that I've experienced the last 2 years, and that is the city we get dinged on everything, every little tiny thing, because of the exposure that being on the city commission gets. And one of the things that, I never wanted to do a sales tax in the beginning because, it is regressive, but I do agree with Bob's comments that it also is, that property tax is also regressive, especially in relationship to affordable housing. And one of the things that I wanted to point out, because I think that it gets lost in this conversation, the city raised the mill levy last year for this year's budget by 1.54 mils. The county raised it by 3.97. Since 2000, the city mill levy has increased by 21%. Keeping in mind that, Dave, how much of that was the library?
That was voted on by the public.
Right, but how many mills was that?
It's been 2 mills.
So it would be about 17% essentially. The county's mill levy has increased 52% since the year 2000. So in relationship to the impact that property tax rates have on the cost of living and affordability of housing in Lawrence, and believe me, I hear everything that folks are saying here tonight. This is an expensive place to live, and a lot of it's because we like our amenities and we like our wants sometimes more than we like our needs. As far as us, feeling like we have to live in a community with all these different amenities. But I just don't want that to get lost in this conversation. And again, I'm great friends with 2 of the county commissioners, and I just have really never spent time with Jim Flory, but I'm sure he and I would be fast friends too. But because that doesn't get reported on, and because the city, what the city commission does gets reported on, the perception that many people in the community have is it's the city's fault that it's so expensive to live here. But in reality, when you look at the numbers, and I'm happy to point you all to the website that had this, because this is one of the things that I asked for. The school district's mill levy has increased by 6 mills since the year 2000. The city's mill levy has increased by 8 mills since the year 2000. 2 of those were the library. So we've increased the mill levy by 6 mills, non-voter approved 6 mills in 14 years. The county raised your property taxes by 7.5 mills in the last 2 years. They raised property taxes in the last 2 years more than this commission or commissioners have in the last 14. And that never gets reported on, and that never gets said. And every time we go to raise taxes, we just get hammered because of it. And in my opinion, it happens pretty unfairly, because there's definitely another side to that story. So in relationship to the sales tax numbers, yes, the sales tax in the city of Lawrence has increased by 75%, and the county has increased by 0. They're maxed out, right, at 1, legislatively maxed out at 1.
I think so.
Right. So I think that, that's just an important part of the perspective, because I think that, we need more money to do more stuff, but I feel like the city commission since the year 2000, and we've had a lot of diversity on it. You know, I graduated high school in 2001 and don't even remember who was on it when I graduated high school, and then didn't move back for 10 years. But I think that the city commission has been very fiscally responsible in relationship to property taxes. 6 mills in 14 years, y'all, is nothing. I'm not saying it's nothing, it has no impact, but in relationship to other things that have increased, you know, I just think that it's important for all of us to have that full perspective. So the document that the city manager's office put together, I've got it on my computer and pulled up if you all want to come and look at it afterwards. But I just wanted everybody to have a more complete picture of that.
Thank you, Jeremy. I will finish up now. I understand what you're talking about. I also want us to remember the city, the stuff the city has to pay for is very different from the county. And I'm going to use the jail and mental health facilities as an example. One of the suggestions that was made was, gee, can we figure out a way to maybe combine some services, law enforcement services with the county? And I would like to make a suggestion that if we decide that we need a new shooting range, which I think, it sounds like we do, could we try to work something out with the city, with the county, for a neutral place to have a joint shooting range? Because I think that would be one facility that we probably could share. I understand that we don't want to try to combine law enforcement and all that. So I really hope we don't have to have that discussion again. But that's an idea of how we might be able to work better with the county. And I appreciate everything that you guys do, and you have an awesome staff who is incredibly helpful. And thank you for doing this. I really do appreciate it. And I hope this sets a good tone for the next commission, and they continue with the idea of town hall or listening session, whatever. This has been great. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you want to know the reason why I didn't vote for it is because of the buying of 45 acres.
What was your name again?
I'm Heather. Heather. My name's Heather. And I heard that we were going to buy 45 acres of land when we needed 15. I'm a frugal person. I say raise my taxes. Do it. I want education. I want the police. I don't buy 30 extra acres of land. And that's why. So thank you.
Thank you.
Venture Park, already have it? Great. 30 extra acres, you're going to get a no.
Thanks.
So I think that's the concern. People are saying they don't have the money. I don't have the money, but I really don't have money for other people to burn through. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else? Well, anyway, excuse me, sir. Excuse me. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and participation in the listening session. Thank you. There's a lot of great comments tonight. I want you to know that. We appreciate all the time and effort that everybody put in to the comments that they brought forward to the commission. There's a lot of good things to think about tonight. So thank you very much for all your participation. Commissioners, anyone else want to add anything? Jeremy?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm going to be having some listening sessions in the month of February that are going to be happening at different places in the community, and those are posted on the city agenda website at lawrenceks.org. I realize that a lot of you may not, you know, if Chad doesn't write about it, you may not know about it. At least I've gotten a lot of feedback saying that. So if you want to come up and ask me, I'd be happy to. You know, I've had Megan send it out. I've been writing weekly blogs. I put it on social media, short of like going door to door, which I'm not going to do because you've got 14 candidates running for city commission that are going to be coming to your door. But please attend those listening sessions. It's going to be more conversational, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about what our priorities should be as a community in relationship to people, projects, and programs.
Thanks. Anyone else? Folks, thank you all very much. We will keep you up to breast on any of the future meetings that we may have, and we'll continue to get input on this and other projects that we have. Thank you all very much for coming this evening.